Flight attendant refuses to let two black brothers into first class. Then she is shocked to discover that their father owns the airline. That morning, gentle sunlight flooded Los Angeles airport, streaming through the large glass windows and illuminating the bustling crowd with warm, golden rays. The check-in counters were filled with energy. The sound of rolling suitcases blended with urgent flight announcements, creating a chaotic symphony that perfectly captured the vibrant energy of a busy morning at the airport, surrounded by a sea of travelers. Emma Carter and Liam Harper caught attention not just for their striking appearance or luxurious bags, but also for their undeniable confidence and calm demeanor. Emily, 17, moved with a serene confidence, embodying the strength of someone who has bravely faced life's challenges. Her simple white blouse hugged her slender figure, while her intricately braided hair at the nape highlighted her strong, mature beauty. Noah, just 15, radiated a contagious energy, filling every moment with joy. His bright blue hoodie peeked out from under his oversized black backpack. All right, Tom. Adding a splash of color to the otherwise subdued scene, his eyes sparkled with excitement, twinkling like stars in the night sky. In their hands were two first-class tickets from Aurora Hirlanesa, a heartfelt gift from their father, James Thornton, who always celebrated their academic achievements with pride and love. Emily proudly graduated as the valedictorian in social sciences, a testament to her hard work and dedication. Meanwhile, Noah was celebrating his incredible achievement of winning the state robotics championship, a moment of triumph filled with joy for the Bennett siblings. This flight meant far more than just a trip. It was a powerful testament to their relentless efforts, a gentle yet profound recognition of their dedication. They truly deserved the best. Emily glanced at the sparkling silver watch on her wrist. Her heart fluttered as she subtly nodded to Noah, a meaningful gesture. All right, let's do this. With a calm yet reassuring tone, she announced, "We have an hour before takeoff." Noah shrugged, a mischievous smile spreading across his face, hinting at the trouble he was about to cause. They headed to the first-class boarding area, a world where wealthy passengers leisurely sipped cappuccinos, immersed in the glow of the screens under warm yellow lights. Enthralling. As they boarded the plane, Noah's jaw nearly dropped to the floor at the stunning exciting. As they boarded the plane, Noah's jaw nearly dropped to the floor at the spectacular sight before him. The gleaming white leather seats looked incredibly inviting, creating a spacious environment that allowed him to stretch out comfortably. Emily smiled gently, her calm demeanor shining through as she easily found their assigned seats A and B. They carefully stowed their luggage. Emily gently fastened Noah's seatbelt, her fingers lightly brushing against him as she tugged at his collar to help gently fasten Noah's seatbelt, her fingers brushing lightly over him as she pulled his collar to cover. A small ink stain, a reminder of his creativity. His shirt still bore the vivid marks from the poster-making session yesterday, a colorful reminder of the joy and creativity still lingering in him. She smiled softly, warmly. Today was truly a remarkable and meaningful day. Let's try to keep ourselves clean and unblemished. All right, let's do this. Noah playfully stuck out his tongue, his eyes sparkling with excitement as he gazed out the window, watching other planes soaring into the sky like shining silver arrows. Everything was going smoothly until Karen Mitchell appeared, with determined strides in her crisp navy blue uniform. Karen Mitchell exuded undeniable confidence, a testament to nearly 30 years of dedication in aviation. But her gaze was chillingly fierce. A sharp look swept through the first-class cabin, casting an uneasy shadow. Every time she passed someone, Cheryl felt her heart race and come to a sudden stop when her eyes fell on Emily and Noah. A flicker of surprise crossed her face. She quickly glanced at their tickets, then inspected them from top to bottom, her gaze intense, as if she were desperately searching for any flaws. Emily felt an undeniable shift in the atmosphere around her. She pretended to focus on the book she was gripping tightly, eager for this moment to pass quickly. But Cheryl's sharp high heels echoed with determination as she confidently strode toward seat 2A. A sharp cough deliberately breaking the silence, drew the attention of several nearby passengers. "Are you sure you're sitting in the right place?" Cheryl's voice the gaze of several nearby passengers. "Are you sure you're in the right seats?" Cheryl's voice sliced through the air, sharp and cold. Filled with unmistakable skepticism, Emily looked up, her heart steady. "Ah," and with calm confidence, she handed over the tickets. "Yes, ma'am, seats A and B, these are our valuable tickets." Cheryl clutched the tickets between her fingers, a look of worry flashing across her face, as if she feared they might betray her. She glanced at them hurriedly, only to receive a frown that made her even more anxious. She nervously flipped through them, desperately searching for any mistakes, but frustratingly, there were none to be found. These tickets were completely valid, clearly beyond question and undeniably authentic. Noah, feeling the weight of the moment, leaned forward and whispered, "What's going on?" Emily. Emily gently squeezed Noah's hand beneath the seat, creating a silent connection amid the uncertainty. "Stay calm. Let me handle this." However, Cheryl remained steadfast, unyielding and determined. She stood there, lips tightly pressed, her eyes shining with intense energy. After what felt like an eternity of heavy silence, she finally broke the stillness with her voice. Her voice rang out, clear and strong, catching the attention of a few nearby passengers. First class is not really designed for younger passengers or those who don't fit the atmosphere on the plane. It was a sharp blow to their pride. Emily stood tall, her deep brown eyes shining with unwavering determination. "We have valid tickets, a thoughtful gift from our father, who carefully booked these seats for us." Cheryl's expression twisted into a sneer, a cruel smirk appearing at the corners of her mouth. She decided not to engage in any further arguments. She turned on her heel and hurried toward the cockpit, her words whispering gently through the air, almost unintelligible. Emily slumped back in her seat, her heart racing in her chest. She felt the weight of being judged, not for their age or the clothes they wore, but for something much deeper lying. She spun around quickly and rushed toward the cockpit, her words barely more than a soft whisper slipping through the air, almost impossible to understand. Emily sank back into her seat, her heart pounding wildly in her chest. She felt the weight of being judged not for her age or the clothes she wore, but for something much deeper hidden. Beneath the surface, the color of their skin. Noah bowed his head, gripping the seatbelt tightly with a sense of urgency. For the first time in his life, he deeply felt the harsh reality of discrimination. It was a cold, cruel force that could steal happiness in an instant. Inside Emily, a silent vow echoed with profound meaning. "We will fiercely protect our pride from anyone who dares to take it away." Taking a deep breath, she reached out her phone and sends a short message to their dad. Her heart races with anticipation. "Dad, I can feel it. There's something unusual about this flight. Far away, thousands of miles away. Preston Ben, a man who has struggled to escape the depths of despair to establish Aurora Airlines, received that message." In that moment, a silent storm began to rise within him, a fierce storm ready to unleash its fury on anyone who dared to threaten his beloved family. On the 52nd floor of a gleaming glass skyscraper in downtown Los Angeles, the sun set, cast golden rays into James Thornton's office, creating a warm light that enveloped the space with an almost magical atmosphere. Behind him, the golden sky gradually shifted to a deep, mesmerizing purple, enhancing the stunning beauty of the glass walls and adorning a breathtaking view. Preston, looking sharp in a perfectly tailored gray suit, sat in the spacious conference room, attentively listening to a lively discussion about the exciting prospects of expanding flight routes to Asia. He nodded slightly as his assistant shared information, occasionally glancing at the phone lying face down next to his steaming black coffee. Only when the phone let out a gentle but persistent ring did he snap back to reality. Preston looked down. A wave of emotion surged within him. A message suddenly appeared. "Dad, I can feel it. Something's wrong on this flight. His heart tightened. With fierce intensity and unwavering determination, Preston quickly grabbed his phone. He nodded politely but firmly as he stepped out of the meeting. He walked down the hallway, each step demanding that he connect me with the captain of Flight 719 immediately. Please, this is extremely urgent. In an instant, as if he were dragging the weight of the world behind him. With steely resolve, Preston reached out directly to the operations center of Aurora Airlines, issuing a command that left no room for doubt. Need you to connect me with the captain of Flight 719 immediately. Please, this is extremely urgent. In an instant, steady. Hello, everyone. I am Karen Mitchell, your lead flight attendant, and I'm delighted to be here with you today. Preston leaned against the cold glass wall, his voice sinking into a deep growl, resonating like distant thunder. You just embarrassed the two kids sitting in seats A and B, didn't you? On the other end, Cheryl hesitated for a moment, but then regained her composure, a hint of subtle pride beginning to show. Sir, I'm just following the security protocols that have been put in place. Unfortunately, these two passengers do not meet our first-class standards. A wave of contemptuous laughter surged within Preston, but he held it back, not letting it escape. He replied with a resonating strength, each word striking like a hammer. Is this your standard, or just the limits of your prejudice? Silence. Preston did not give her time to respond. You are speaking with James Thornton, the proud founder and chairman of Aurora Airlines, and the dedicated father of the two precious children you just insulted, Cheryl gasped, her breath catching in her throat. Preston could almost feel the extreme panic radiating from her, burning every pore of her at that moment. These two passengers do not meet our first-class standards. A sneer rose up inside Preston, but he held it back, not letting it slip out. He replied with a powerful voice, each word like a hammer blow. Is that your standard, or just the limit of your prejudice? Silence. Preston gave her no time to respond. You are speaking with James Thornton, proud founder and chairman of Aurora Airlines and the devoted father of two precious children you just insulted, Cheryl gasped, her breath catching in her throat. Preston could almost feel the intense panic radiating from her, burning every pore at that moment. He growled, You will return to seats A and B. You must sincerely apologize to Emily and Liam Harper, and make sure your apology is loud enough for everyone in first class to hear. You will personally escort them back to their seats carefully and respectfully. He paused, letting each word sink deep into Cheryl's mind. If not, Preston's voice would turn into a cold whisper filled with fierce intensity that would send chills down anyone's spine. The Aurora Airlines uniform you're wearing will mark the end of your career in aviation. Standing on the flight deck, Cheryl felt a wave of unease wash over her. She seemed frozen just outside the cockpit door. Her face grew pale and shadowed. She gripped the intercom so tightly her knuckles turned white, a clear sign of her mounting anxiety. She knew that just one wrong move, her knuckles turning white, a clear sign of her growing anxiety. She knew that just one wrong step, one denial could ruin her 30-year career in an instant. Trying to contain the rising anger, Cheryl took a deep breath, then turned back to the passenger cabin with strong determination. The air became heavy with tension as the passengers watched her approach, fully aware that she was heading towards the children she had just humiliated a few minutes before. Stopping in front of them, Cheryl took a deep breath, her throat dry and tight as she prepared to speak. Oh, Ms. Bennett, Master Bennett, she said, her voice trembling as she tried to stay calm, but the tension was unmistakable. I sincerely apologize for the earlier misunderstanding. Your tickets are perfectly valid and ready for you. We kindly ask everyone to return to their seats in rows A and B. Thank you for your cooperation. A gentle wave of whispers spread throughout the cabin, carrying a sense of anticipation and curiosity. Emily squinted, closely observing every tense line on Cheryl's face, but she just politely nodded, took Noah's hand, and pulled him up. Noah felt the weight of countless eyes on them. Some were filled with pity, some with embarrassment, and some with a hint of mockery. He held his sister's hand tightly, lifting his chin, determination radiating from him as he walked through the crowded economy section. Each step brought them closer to reclaiming their rightful first-class seats. As Emily settled into her seat, she gently smoothed her shirt, fastened her seatbelt with a sense of calm, and opened her book, hiding the chaos inside as if nothing had happened. However, deep inside her, a fierce fire had ignited. A fire not only fueled by personal humiliation, but by a much greater strength than herself. The deep injustice continued to simmer just beneath the surface, even in the most elegant and refined contexts. Back on the 52nd floor, James Thornton let out a heavy sigh, carefully placing the phone down on the table as if it bore the weight of the world. He stepped out onto the balcony, his hands gently resting on the cool glass railing, his eyes lost in the mesmerizing expanse of the blood-red horizon. Deep down, he felt that this situation couldn't be resolved easily with just an apology. Once prejudice had taken root in a person's heart, it wouldn't simply disappear with a simple reminder. It lingered, stubborn and unyielding. Preston clenched his fists in anger. The wind howled through the towering skyscrapers, fiercely sweeping away. The last rays of the sun were fading. Deep in his heart, a resolute decision took shape. If they believed they could shame the Bennett children without facing any consequences, they were about to plunge into a real nightmare. Aurora Airlines Flight 719 soared through thick swirling clouds, creating a shimmering path of light against the dark night sky. Inside the first-class cabin, a pleasant silence enveloped the space. Soft whispers drifted by like echoes of a distant memory, fading into silence. But for Emily and Liam Harper, that surface was merely a fragile mask, hiding a deep and persistent discomfort weighing on their hearts. Noah sat there, nervously twisting the plastic cup with his fingers, lost and in thought. His gaze turned toward the enveloping darkness outside the window, a haunting void that seemed to be silently holding the secrets of the night. Moonlight danced on the glass, casting a sparkling reflection of the boy's youthful spirit, filled with unwavering determination. Emily looked at her brother gently, a wave of deep sympathy rising within her heart. She could sense that Noah was trying to hide his pain beneath his quiet demeanor. Like her, he found himself unaccustomed to being the center of attention, especially for one single reason: the color of their skin. "Emily," Noah whispered, his voice filled with curiosity, "why do you think they did that?" Emily paused, setting her book aside, and gently squeezed his hand, offering him comfort and connection in that moment. "Because they're afraid," she replied, her eyes drifting, overwhelmed with a deep fear of the unknown that haunted them. And sometimes beneath the surface, people hide their fears with a veil of disdain. Noah looked up, his eyes shining with a mix of confusion and anger. "But we really didn't do anything wrong," Emily said, her voice tinged with sadness as she offered a small smile. "Not at all. My dear brother, we stand firm in our truth, undeterred by doubt, and we refuse to let anyone shake us from what we know is right." In the cockpit, Captain Daniel Reed glanced at the radar screen, his heart racing before turning to face Cheryl with a mixture of determination and urgency. Adam Damsu had just returned from a life-changing phone call. Although he remained silent, the visible tension on her face spoke volumes. ABY, deep fear, a simmering resentment just beneath the surface. Mitchell sighed with relief, weary, whispering his inner thoughts. After many years of dedication in aviation, he had come to understand this profound truth. Sometimes, the most terrifying dangers in aviation don't stem from turbulent weather or mechanical failures, but from the deep-seated biases that people carry into the vast skies. Mechanical failure was not the cause, but rather the deep-seated prejudices that people carry into the vast sky. After what felt like an eternity, Flight 719 finally landed safely at Los Angeles International Airport. This brought a wave of relief and joy to everyone on board. As the plane's wheels touched the ground, Emily and Noah looked at each other with unwavering determination. What happened today is not over yet. Its echoes will continue to resonate. She could feel it pounding deep beneath her skin, like a storm quietly forming in the distance. Passengers began to stand up, eagerly grabbing their luggage with excitement. Emily and Noah moved leisurely, calm and confident, heads held high, savoring the present moment. They stepped off the plane, standing tall and filled with pride. With a heavy heart, I promised myself that this shame would not simply fade away as if it had never existed. However, as they entered the baggage claim area, Emily couldn't shake the uneasy feeling that something was wrong. 3 security officers in dark uniforms were present at the exit, their expressions cold and unwavering. A tall man, wearing a radio clip on his shoulder, gestured towards them with an authoritative air. "Please, step aside for a moment. We need to conduct a further check of your luggage. There are serious concerns regarding some prohibited items." Emily's eyebrows furrowed with worry. Deep inside, her intuition screamed that something very bad had happened. Noah exhaled in a panicked whisper, his voice trembling with urgency. "Emily, can you tell me what's going on? We're not carrying anything unusual." Emily gently placed her hand on his shoulder, battling the emotional storm inside her to stay calm. "Everything will be fine. Just come with me. We really have nothing to hide." Under the harsh white lights, 2 black backpacks were systematically searched. Exposed to the gaze of hundreds of curious onlookers, a heavy sigh echoed as a security officer pulled something out. The tension in the air was palpable. A small bag filled with mysterious white powder was found in Noah's backpack. Suddenly, the atmosphere became thick with extreme tension. Someone shouted, "Drugs!" Whispers spread quickly, igniting waves of anxiety and curiosity. Noah stood frozen, his eyes filled with horror. "No, I really don't know what that is." Emily quickly stepped in front of him, her voice ringing out in the air with fierce determination. "That doesn't belong to us. This is a setup." However, her words were drowned out by the judgmental glances and the smug smile of the head of security, echoing like a desperate plea in a stifling room. "Please come with us," the officer said coldly, motioning for the handcuffs. Noah struggled against the surging emotions, his eyes signaling to bring the handcuffs out. Noah struggled against the rising tide of emotions, his eyes glimmering with unshed tears. Emily held his hand tightly, fury boiling within her. But she tried to keep her voice as calm as possible. "We urgently call for an immediate field test. We have the right to be inviolable to prove our innocence." The officer's eyebrows furrowed, uncertainty flickering across his face as he met Emily's steady gaze. Under the weight of the crowd's scrutinizing eyes, he reluctantly nodded, feeling the pressure from their watchful presence. A rapid drug testing kit was announced. Each passing minute felt heavy, making it hard for me to breathe. Emily held Noah's hand tightly, her voice barely a whisper. "Trust me, we haven't done anything wrong." The machine beeped rapidly, and the results were displayed clearly. No drugs detected. The tension in the air exploded into a bright red as he stuttered, overwhelmed by the moment. "There must be some misunderstanding. I sincerely apologize for this inconvenience." Emily remained silent, her thoughts swirling. She held Noah's hand tightly, gently leading him away from the scene. But in her eyes, a cold, piercing light danced. This was not a mistake. It was a deliberate choice. It was a calculated attack. And with all the pride of the Bennett name, she vowed to uncover the identity of those responsible. As Emily and Liam Harper stepped out of the baggage claim area, their footsteps echoed through the vast terminal of Los Angeles Airport. Each step felt heavy with the tension surrounding them. Emily held her brother's hand with fierce determination. Noah, usually curious and chatty, stood there, his thin hoodie barely hiding the slight shiver that showed his unease. The thin hoodie barely concealed the slight tremor reflecting his nervousness. The heavy silence, almost palpable, wrapped around him like a shroud. In his eyes, innocence had shattered, leaving a haunting crack deep within Emily's heart, filled with profound sadness. She couldn't let this pass like a nightmare haunting in the shadows. No, I can't. I was on my way and felt excitement rising with each moment. Emily instinctively nodded, her heart racing as if Preston could truly see her in that moment. Of course, Dad. As she ended the call, her fingers tightened around the strap of her backpack, her eyes narrowing with tension. She had absorbed the wisdom from that resilient man that when cornered, the strong do not back down. They rise and fight back fiercely. Just 15 minutes later, amidst the bustling chaos of the crowded international terminal, a distinct black SUV glided in and stopped right in front of the VIP entrance. James Thornton stepped out of the vehicle, each step cutting through the heavy atmosphere with an intensity that demanded attention. He wore a dark blue suit, his tie slightly loose, but the authority radiating from him was undeniable. His deep black eyes swept through the crowd, finally landing on Emily and Noah with a mix of longing and determination. He silently walked through the room, enveloping his children in a warm, steady embrace, clearly demonstrating his love and protection. Noah, usually calm and quiet, clung to his father so tightly that his knuckles turned white. Emily rested her head on Preston's shoulder, finally able to breathe a sigh of relief. A deep, heavy breath that had weighed on her all day. Preston released them, his eyes glinting with a cold gaze. All right, let's get to work. There was so much to do ahead, and it was time to roll up our sleeves and get started. The SUV shot out of the airport, speeding down the brightly lit streets of Los Angeles with sheer excitement. Inside the car, Preston sat silently, his dark, contemplative eyes gazing out the window. Lost in thought, Emily sat beside him, her fingers gliding gently over her laptop. Immersed in her own world, she was delving deep into Aurora Airline's internal system, a treasure trove of personnel records, flight schedules, and crucial security reports. Each piece held its own significance and value. Through countless nights of determination and passion, Emily had honed her programming skills, enabling her to uncover hidden insights in the data that Mosh often overlooked. Within minutes, she looked up, her eyes shining with intense resolve. Dad, I found something amazing. She quickly turned her laptop screen toward Preston, eager for him to see what awaited. An earnest internal security report, delivered personally by Karen Mitchell to the airport control department just minutes before the plane landed. The content seemed very minimal, just a few lines. Please note that passengers may be subjected to additional baggage screening. There was something concerning about this behavior. No evidence, no clear description, just a vague, unfounded note hanging in the air. It had triggered a rigorous and unforgiving screening process. Noah gasped, his breath catching in his throat, his voice trembling with anger. She was trying to bring us closer together. Preston's hand gripped the armrest of the car tightly, the veins visibly straining against his tanned skin. In the eyes of the man who had built an aviation empire from the ground up, only one fierce determination remained. An unyielding drive to eradicate anyone who dared to threaten his beloved family. The SUV suddenly veered onto the highway, heading towards a clear description. Just a vague, unfounded note hanging in the air. It triggered a harsh and unforgiving examination. Noah gasped, her breath catching in her throat, her voice trembling with anger. She had tried to bring us closer together. Preston's hand gripped the armrest of the car tightly, the veins standing out under his tanned skin. In the eyes of the man who had built an aviation empire from scratch, there was only a single, intense determination left. The relentless drive to eradicate anyone who dared threaten his beloved family. The SUV suddenly turned onto the highway, heading towards the bustling headquarters of Aurora Airlines. A magnificent skyscraper, glimmering in silver blue, stood tall right in the middle of the busy downtown. The night had draped the sky in darkness. Yet, the Aurora office was still alive, filled with energy like a relentless battlefield. As Preston, Emily, and Noah walked into the magnificent lobby, all eyes turned towards them, and the receptionist stood up, her voice trembling with surprise. "Mr. Bennett, the executive team eagerly awaits your presence in the conference room." Preston nodded slightly, conveying all his emotions without needing to say another word. He walked purposefully toward the private elevator, his children following closely behind, their presence a comforting reminder of family. Deep inside, Emily felt an unexpected sensation beginning to awaken. She had transformed from an ordinary girl into someone walking in her father's footsteps. She could feel it more intensely than ever before. She stood resolute on a real battlefield, caught in a fierce clash between justice and deceit, between the noble call of honor and the heavy shame others wanted to impose on her, and she was ready, determined to stand firm. As the elevator doors opened on the 48th floor, a sharp bell rang out, filling the air with anticipation. Inside the conference room, the members of the Aurora Airlines board sat waiting, their expressions a mix of eagerness and tension as they anticipated the unfolding of important discussions. They were the faces of fate, the men and women shouldering the responsibility for Aurora's future. Their hands trembled with evident stress. At the end of the table, Gregory sat there, a formidable presence, arms crossed, embodying the shock and tension surrounding him as he faced his rival. Aurora, Emily squinted, her face oddly calm, a fierce light shining in her eyes. Deep down, her sharp instincts told her that this man was not innocent. Preston stared with unwavering resolve. He paused at the head of the table, his heart racing as he opened Emily's laptop, and with a hint of expectation, projected Karen Mitchell's security report onto the big screen. The soft rustle of paper broke the silence in the room, filling it with a tense, almost haunting stillness. Preston's voice rang out like thunder, each word pronounced clearly and precisely. "Exposing the shocking scheme of one of our veteran employees to harm my child and tarnish the reputation of Aurora Airlines." A board member frowned, hesitating to voice his concern. "Mr. Bennett, we lack compelling evidence to prove that Cheryl acted independently." Preston replied with a cold, sad smile. "Surely, no doubt about it. She was not alone in this. Innocent." Preston stared with unwavering intensity. He stopped at the head of the table, his heart racing as he opened Emily's laptop, and with a hint of anticipation, projected Karen Mitchell's security report onto the big screen. The soft rustling of paper broke the silence in the room, filling it with a stillness, almost haunting. Preston's voice thundered, each word pronounced clearly and precisely. "Unveiling the shocking plot of one of our veteran employees to harm my child and tarnish the reputation of Aurora Airlines." A board member frowned, hesitating to voice his concerns. "Mr. Bennett, we lack compelling evidence to prove that Cheryl acted independently." Preston responded with a cold, sorrowful smile. "Surely, no doubt about it. She wasn't alone in this." With a gentle yet purposeful touch, he pressed another key on the laptop. The atmosphere in the conference room grew tenser as the large screen flickered, displaying a series of encrypted emails that Emily had bravely decrypted. The secret communications between Karen Mitchell and Richard Vaughn were now exposed, vibrating with the weight of their secrets. A wave of whispers spread across the room, the air thick with tension. Eva glanced at Gregory, her heart racing with unspoken thoughts. The man still sat in his chair, but his hands twitched slightly, revealing his anxiety. While his eyes grew dark, Noah leaned in closer, his heart pounding with stress, and whispered, "We've found the right person." The conference room on the 48th floor felt like everyone was holding their breath, waiting. The large screen flickered, displaying the decrypted emails from Aurora Airline's internal system. Each web page slowly scrolled by, like a haunting reminder of the secrets being revealed. The chilling content unveiled an undeniable truth. Gregory Schuff, the chief financial officer, whom Preston once trusted, had secretly communicated and manipulated things behind the scenes. Karen Mitchell was thrilled to bring Emily and Noah together. The atmosphere became heavy, each breath carrying the terrible weight of 1,000 pounds. James Thornton stood upright, gripping the long table with determination, his sharp gaze scanning the room like cold blades. "Have you really seen enough?" His voice resonated with a warm, steady tone. However, it exploded throughout the room like thunder, shaking the very air around us. Opposite him, Richard Vaughn sat completely still, as if time had stopped. But under the glaring lights, beads of sweat rolled down his temples, exposing the fragile calm he was desperately clinging to. Margaret Hayes, the longest-serving board member, addressed the entire room in a serious and authoritative tone. "Mr. Shaw, do you have anything you want to say in response to this evidence?" Gregory took a deep breath, nervously adjusted his tie, and stood up with a heavy heart. He tried to maintain a calm expression, but the storm raging in his eyes could not be hidden. "This is a misunderstanding," he began, his voice trembling with emotion. "It is entirely possible that those emails were created out of thin air. In the vast world of the internet, Ryan knows very well how easy it is to create illusions and deceive others." A cold, sharp laugh erupted from Preston, tearing through the air. Completely fabricated. Preston had poured his heart into every word. Preston, cutting through the air, was entirely fabricated. Preston poured his heart into every word, emphasizing their weight and significance. "So, you wouldn't mind if the independent cybersecurity group confirmed their authenticity, right?" Gregory felt tense for a moment, lost in the rhythm. His heart was heavy. He understood that once the investigation began, the truth would be laid bare before all the board members. There would be no place left for secrets. There would be nowhere to hide. He had lost control. His voice became sharp and defensive. Time was passing quickly. Those kids were tainting the company's reputation. "All I want is to protect Aurora from danger." Emily's fingers gripped the armrest of her chair tightly, her clear yet piercing eyes locked onto Gregory, unwavering and unblinking. "You're not protecting anyone," she said softly, yet her words resonated powerfully throughout the room. "You all are after us because you believe that the kids of color in Wetwell won't stand a chance to defend themselves." Summer board members shifted uncomfortably in their seats, their eyes clearly revealing their agitation. Emily's words hit Gregory like a lightning strike, exposing the deep pain simmering within the company. As he felt the pressure mounting, a fierce growl erupted from him. "You'll regret this. Preston, you've become weak. You coddle the kids. And now you're leading us all to disaster." Preston merely met his gaze without flinching. It wasn't a look of anger, but rather the cold, detached look of a man watching the painful decline of a trapped creature struggling in its final moments. He tilted his head slightly, signaling silently to the security team. The conference room door opened, and two security officers in black uniforms stepped in, their presence exuding authority. Richard Vaughn. Preston's voice echoed throughout the walls, a cold statement resonating in the hearts of all those present. "Accordingly, you are suspended pending a criminal investigation into conspiracy, corruption, and serious violations of business ethics." A wave of disbelief swept through the room, leaving everyone breathless. Gregory staggered back, his world spinning as the two security officers moved closer, holding him firmly in this moment of despair. He turned, his eyes blazing as he glared at Preston, Emily, and Noah. "This isn't over," he shouted, his voice filled with rage as he was dragged away. The rough sound of his shoes scraping against the cold marble floor echoed hauntingly, lingering long after he disappeared through the door. Preston stood stunned, his heart heavy, watching until Gregory's figure vanished from sight. Only then did he turn back to face the board. Homanidino. His gaze waited with an unspoken command resonating in the air. We will clean up Aurora Airlines starting today. No one dared to object as Preston, Emily, and Noah exited the meeting room. The long hallway was filled with soft golden light, like a sacred path unfolding before them. Noah glanced at his father, his eyes still glistening with remnants of tears, but now shining with a fierce, undeniable light, a light of pride and a steadfast belief that had ignited hope within him. Dad, Noah breathed out, his voice trembling with emotion. You didn't just protect us. You showed us the strength to stand firm. Preston paused, his hand resting firmly on his son's shoulder. No one can take away your dignity, he said gently, unless you choose to surrender. Emily stood beside them, her hand clutching the laptop that held the promise of justice. In her eyes, the gentle nature of childhood was gradually fading, giving way to the fierce determination of a warrior. Outside, Los Angeles sparkled under the brilliant nightlights, the streets intertwined like rivers of destiny, flowing and merging in a complex dance. The Bennett family stepped into that urban landscape as three characters, three souls woven together into an unyielding force. However, in the hidden shadows, where the light had yet to dare to enter, a new plot was quietly forming. Waiting to be revealed, a new enemy, darker and more ruthless, had begun to plan the next move. This time, the conflict would not be limited to just an airport, a solitary airplane, or even a single airline. It would erupt on a vast battlefield, where courage, loyalty, and faith would be pushed to the limits. Outside the headquarters of Aurora Airlines, the night enveloped Los Angeles like a black silk shroud, covering every street and high-rise building in a chilling embrace. The golden light from the stores sparkled on the sidewalk, creating a thin layer of mist. In a cozy bar, tucked away in an old neighborhood, flickering neon lights adorned the walls with a gentle, vibrating glow. Karen Mitchell sat alone at the last table, her heart heavy. Next to her, an old phone vibrated, indicating a new message. Gregory had failed. The next plan had been set in motion, filling her with both hope and anxiety. Shut up, Cheryl scoffed, her fingers swiftly gliding over the screen, her eyes sparkling with a fierce mix of resentment and desperation. Ever since James Thornton humiliated her in front of the entire board, Cheryl felt the weight of despair pressing down on her. Yet deep inside, she realized that even a formidable man like Preston could be brought to his knees if someone dared to target his greatest weakness. And that moment was reserved solely for his family. Meanwhile, inside the spacious living room of the Bennett family's Brentwood estate, Preston was calling for an urgent private meeting. Emily sat upright in her glossy leather chair, her laptop glowing in front of her. Beside her, Noah, immersed in his task, wore headphones as he meticulously reviewed surveillance footage provided by Preston's dedicated security team. Facing them was Ethan Brooks, the newly appointed head of security, deeply focused as he sketched a threat assessment map on the electronic board. Mr. Bennett, Reed began, his voice steady yet urgent. We detected unusual breaches into Aurora's main server just 3 days ago. A large amount of sensitive data has been accessed and downloaded, and the severity of this situation has all of us extremely worried. Preston nodded, his expression unwavering. Go on. The hacker left no usual traces, but by analyzing the source code, we traced an IP address back to a network owned by Stratus Air. Emily froze, her eyes suddenly lifting. The heir of Stratus, a formidable rival of Aurora, Reed, nodded in acknowledgement. It seemed like the incident involving Cheryl and Gregory was just a facade. A bigger plan was unfolding, with direct interference from Stratus. The atmosphere in the room grew tenser. Noah removed his headphones, glancing at his sister with concern. Did they really want to completely destroy Aurora Reed? Sighed heavily. It's not just about Aurora anymore. Their goal is to ruin the Bennett name. They want to erase your family from aviation. Emily bit her lip, her heart racing with fear. She could feel the intense undercurrents surging beneath the city's calm, sparkling exterior. Preston stood up, striding toward the large window that framed a stunning view of the Los Angeles lights. He was silent, the weight of the moment pressing heavily in the air. Finally, he turned around, his gaze cutting through the stillness like a knife. We can't let ourselves be caught off guard again. He looked at Emily and Noah, his voice tearing through the heavy silence. We will strike back quietly, thoroughly, and without a second chance. The plan was meticulously laid out that night. In the stifling darkness of the closed room, Emily would use her tech skills to infiltrate the Air of Stratus's internal system. Determined to find the evidence to expose the dark conspiracy aimed at wiping out Aurora, Noah, with his incredible ability to sift through social media and public camera feeds, would meticulously track down those involved. Reed and his team would bolster security for the family, preparing for any worst-case scenarios. Meanwhile, Preston would deftly manage Aurora's public image while directing all operations from the shadows. As night fell, filled with tension and anticipation, Emily found herself in her private room. The cool blue light from her laptop illuminated her serious expression. Her fingers danced across the keyboard urgently, quickly peeling away complex layers of security as if she were unraveling invisible knots that held her enemy captive. The lines of code flickered on the screen, each line bringing her closer to victory. Then, a soft click echoed in the silence. Emily had successfully breached the internal network of the Stratos Air. With unwavering determination, she meticulously sifted through the files. Suddenly, a hidden file appeared. Project Eclipse. Emily's heart raced as she opened it. As the confidential documents unfolded before her, she felt a lump in her throat. This was the chilling plan to destroy Aurora Airlines' reputation through a vile media campaign. Secret emails revealed shocking bribes offered to airport security staff to smuggle contraband for gullible Aurora passengers. Under-the-table deals with extremist factions to orchestrate protests and violence against the Bennett family. Each word felt like a stab deeper into Emily's heart. This was beyond mere business competition. It was a desperate fight for survival. Meanwhile, in an abandoned warehouse in South Los Angeles, a secret meeting was taking place. Jonathan, the formidable executive of Stratus, confidently walked to the head of a long table. His sharp, cold features gleamed ominously under the dim light. The closed room. Emily would use her tech skills to infiltrate the internal system of the Stratus Air, determined to uncover evidence of the dark conspiracy aimed at wiping out Aurora. Noah, with his incredible ability to sift through social media and public camera feeds, would meticulously track down those involved. Reed and his team would bolster security for the family, preparing for any worst-case scenario that might arise. Meanwhile, Preston would skillfully manage Aurora's public image while directing all operations from the shadows. As night fell, filled with tension and anticipation, Emily found herself in her private room. The cool blue light from her laptop illuminated her serious expression. Her fingers danced on the keyboard urgently, quickly dismantling complex security layers as if she were untangling the invisible knots binding her enemies. The lines of code flickered on the screen, each line bringing her closer to victory. Then, a soft click broke the silence. Emily had successfully breached the internal network of the Stratus Airs with unyielding determination. She meticulously sifted through files. Suddenly, a hidden file appeared. Project Eclipse. Emily's heart raced as she opened it. As the confidential documents unfolded before her eyes, she felt a lump in her throat. This was the chilling plan to destroy Aurora Airlines' reputation through a vile media campaign. Secret emails revealed shocking bribes offered to airport security personnel to smuggle contraband to unsuspecting Aurora passengers. Under-the-table deals with extremist factions aimed at staging protests and violence against the Bennett family. Each word felt like a knife stabbing deeper into Emily's heart. This went far beyond mere business competition. It was a desperate fight for survival. Meanwhile, in an abandoned warehouse in South Los Angeles, a secret meeting was taking place. Jonathan, the formidable CEO of the satellite company Stratus, confidently strode to the head of a long table. His sharp, cold features sparkled ominously beneath. The dim lights cast a shadowy glow. Next to him were strangers, not from the aviation world, but notorious figures from the dark underbelly of the city. As Jonathan's voice cut through the low murmur of conversation, James Thornton barely dodged the first strike. But next time, I didn't want his reputation to survive. I craved his complete destruction. A strong man wearing dark sunglasses nodded in agreement. We're ready. When do we move? Jonathan's cold smirk was chilling, a smile that couldn't soften his icy gaze. Tomorrow night, when Aurora releases the quarterly financial report. He took a sip of his strong drink. His eyes were filled with darkness and threat. We'll make sure he loses not just the company, he'll lose everything. Meanwhile, at the Bennett estate, Emily had finished downloading all the files connected to Project Eclipse onto a secure external hard drive. She looked up at the ceiling, where warm, soft yellow light enveloped her. In that moment, she realized the game had irreversibly changed, and her family was now trapped with no way out. Dawn spread over Los Angeles, casting a pale, cold, and gloomy light, grayer than ever. As if the city itself sensed the storm lurking beneath its false sense of peace. At the Bennett estate, the atmosphere was tense, powerful like a bowstring pulled back. Emma Carter sat at the walnut dining table, the dim glow from the laptop screen mixed with the rising steam from a cup of coffee, creating an almost haunting atmosphere. Next to her, Noah was absorbed in lines of code, carefully examining files taken from the air conditioning system of Stratus just the night before. Every blinking line on the screen felt like a harsh sentence, exposing dark plots aimed at undermining Aurora Airlines and tarnishing the Bennett family legacy. Suddenly, James Thornton entered the room. The strands of silver hair on his hair shimmered in the warm embrace of the early morning golden light, his eyes sharp and intense like a finely honed blade. What do we have? He asked in a serious voice. Cutting through the tension, Emily turned her laptop toward him, her face showing the inner stress, enough to hold back Strat and Jonathan Cross. She answered with unshakable determination. But if we release it carelessly, they'll exploit it. They see themselves as, the plain truth is never enough. Then, he stared at Emily and Noah, his voice steady and resolute. We must launch an unrelenting and undeniable counterattack. That very morning, the plan began to take shape. Every step was mapped out meticulously, like crucial moves in a high-stakes chess game, where every decision could mean the difference between victory and defeat. First and foremost, we must convene an emergency press conference under the banner of Aurora Airlines. This is not a regular meeting. We need to break away from the usual conference room setting at Los Angeles City Hall to truly capture the attention of the media and the government. Next, we will strategically reveal each piece of evidence, starting with internal emails and recordings of private discussions, ultimately disclosing the entire cover-up plan, the third step, just before Stratos can prepare himself. We will deliver the final devastating blow. We will unveil irrefutable evidence of the dirty money linked to the dark financial underbelly of Los Angeles. Emily, with her amazing tech skills, will create a presentation that is not only seamless, but also incredibly clear. Meanwhile, Noah, a master of the digital landscape, Kikiso, will direct the widespread dissemination of this truth on social media. Ensuring that Stratus, the dark financial world of Los Angeles, Emily, with her exceptional tech skills, will create a presentation that is not only seamless, but incredibly clear. Meanwhile, Noah, the master of the digital landscape, the presentation was not only seamless, but crystal clear. Meanwhile, Noah, a master of digital context, would lead the widespread sharing of this truth on social media, making sure Stratus would never regain control of the narrative. and Preston would become the voice for our cause, a witness to our fight, the warrior leading the charge, delivering the message with unwavering conviction. The final blow, that fateful afternoon. Indeed, Aurora Airlines issued a shocking announcement. An emergency press conference was scheduled for 10 hours tomorrow morning at Los Angeles City Hall. They promised to reveal the truth about unfair competition in the airline industry. The news spread across the media like wildfire. Within hours, major outlets from the Los Angeles Times to CNN and New York Post were filled with sensational headlines. Aurora Airlines stood firm, accusing competitors of deceit in this high-stakes war. This was a battle between Bennett and Cross, and the tension was palpable. What hidden truths were about to be revealed? Meanwhile, Michael Steele was in his lavish mansion in Bear, attending a fancy party when he received an urgent message from his assistant, interrupting his evening. He frowned, angrily throwing his red wine glass to the floor, shattering it into thousands of dazzling pieces. "They think they can challenge us," he hissed, his eyes burning with fierce malice. "Relentless. Eliminate them before the press conference," he ordered coldly. "Do whatever it takes." That night, the Bennett estate was filled with tension. Security forces led by Ethan Brooks ramped up defenses, thermal cameras scanned the darkness, motion sensors blended into the Secret Service, moving like shadows. Every precaution tightened around them like a suffocating vice. In the war room on the second floor, Emily, Noah, and Preston gathered around a large table, their faces lit up by the glow of a big screen. The screen displayed disturbing images of potential threats from Stratus, media sabotage, cyber attacks, and even the chilling possibility of physical assaults. Emily's gaze flicked toward Noah, who was diligently coordinating a network of fake social media accounts, determined to conceal the truth and fight back if necessary. No, he was just 50 years old and no longer the cheerful boy he once was. His eyes now burned with the fierce determination of a young warrior stepping into battle for his own survival. Preston placed a hand on each of his children's shoulders. "I'm proud of you," he said, his voice soft yet filled with heartfelt emotion. "Not for anyone else, but for you, for having the courage to stand firm in the storm." Emily caught a glimpse of a faint but resolute smile. "We won't back down," she declared with intense determination. We moved forward close to midnight. A small sound echoed from the fence behind her, making her shiver. The motion-detecting camera had caught 3 dark figures, stealthily hiding in the shadows like ticking time bombs, dressed in black. Wearing tight gloves, they carried jamming devices. A frightening sight. Immediately, Reed activated the alarm, urgency spreading through the air. Preston, Emily, and Noah took their positions with unwavering determination. No signs of panic, no wavering in their resolve. They had prepared for this moment, and it showed. As the intruders attempted to cut the main power line, the backup system roared to life, flooding the entire estate with blinding light. Caught off guard, the 3 intruders fell into chaos and fled in desperation. But Reed's security team closed in, forming an unbreakable barrier all around them. The crack of stun guns rang out, and immediately, one intruder dropped, the last sound echoing as he hit the cool, dew-soaked grass. His arms were painfully twisted behind his back. Preston stood on the front steps, his gaze fixed on the unfolding scene. "Take them inside," he ordered, his voice firm and unyielding. As the masks were pulled off, Emily and Noah froze, their hearts racing. They recognized them. They were former security staff who once served Strat's pilot, the ones Preston had fired for their betrayal. Preston let out a quiet chuckle. "Michael Steele," he whispered with disdain. "Did you really think I wouldn't see through your old, tired scheme?" As the night gave way to the gentle light of dawn over Los Angeles, a small victory had been won at the Bennett estate for the resilient who refused to back down. However, The Real Worth press conference tomorrow was just the beginning of a much larger confrontation. This time, Preston, Emily, and Noah were not just fighting for their honor. They were on a mission to transform that very story. That morning, Los Angeles was shrouded in a thick layer of gray clouds and leaden dust. Not a ray of sunshine dared to break through. The entire city seemed to be enveloped in a moment of breathless suspense. In front of Los Angeles City Hall, a crowd buzzed with anticipation, making the atmosphere tense with each passing minute. Major news outlets rushed to set up tents, cameras, and microphones jostling in a chaotic dance. Above, a giant electronic billboard displayed an eye-catching headline, "Emergency Press Conference of Aurora Airlines on Illegal Competitive Practices." Meanwhile, in a cramped preparation room, James Thornton stood with determination, his black suit pressed sharply, his eyes deep and dark like a restless sea before a storm. Beside him, Emily and Noah adjusted their lapel microphones, their expressions a mix of determination and intensity. Emily clutched a folder in her hand, filled with incriminating evidence of the dark conspiracy of Project Eclipse, aimed at wiping out Aurora Airlines. Her gaze locked onto her father, filled with unwavering determination. "We're ready." Preston flashed a brief smile, exuding deep confidence. "Remember this, Emily, Noah, the truth can be hidden, but it will never truly disappear." Noah nodded, his palms damp, but his voice stayed steadfast. "We will force them to face it." Suddenly, the conference room door swung open. Camera flashes flashed like thunder, and reporters jumped to their feet, wildly excited for the moment. The lenses focused on the Bennett family. Preston stepped up to the podium, his two children standing proudly behind him. No security staff, no barriers, just pure honesty and unwavering belief in the truth. He scanned the room, looking straight into their eyes with curiosity, skepticism, and even hostility. Yet he remained calm and steady. Then he began. "Ladies and gentlemen," his voice resonated, warm yet firm. "Today, I stand before you, not just as the chairman of Aurora Airlines, but as a grieving father watching his child become a victim of a vile conspiracy. Aurora Airlines, but also a grieving father witnessing his child become a victim of a vile conspiracy." A deep silence enveloped the room, a heavy stillness that even the sound of cameras could not break. The only sound was the gentle buzzing of the recorder capturing this moment. Preston continued to apply pressure. For months, Aurora Airlines had faced relentless attacks with despicable means, false accusations, and sabotage. There were even attempts to frame our passengers, he said, pausing to let the weight of his words hang in the air. Today, his voice dropped to a determined whisper. "We will reveal the whole truth." He gestured to Emily, who stepped forward with a clear purpose. Connecting a hard drive to the presentation system, the large screen behind the podium flickered to life, revealing evidence. Each shocking piece of information following another, sure to stun and greatly concern everyone. It all began with a troubling chain of emails exchanged between Karen Mitchell and Gregory Shoproof, unveiling their dark plot to trap Emily and Noah on that infamous flight. Next came a chilling recording of a phone conversation between Cheryl and a senior assistant at Stratus Air, where they blatantly discussed plans to plant fake white powder in the luggage of unsuspecting Aurora passengers. Then, shocking copies of the Eclipse project design surfaced, revealing a dark media campaign, staged protests, and the creation of false rumors. There were even hidden funds transferred to extremist groups, all aimed at throwing Aurora Airlines into chaos. Finally, Emily unveiled a short but damning video of a secret recording showing none other than Michael Steele orchestrating the entire operation. His face, voice, and every threat he made were powerfully impactful. The press room buzzed with energy. Reporters surged forward, their microphones clashing in chaos. The air was filled with shouts and questions. "Do you have any direct evidence?" That cross-staged this incident. When will Aurora Airlines sue the heirs of Stratus? Is your family afraid of retaliation? Amid the uproar, Preston raised his hand, desperately seeking silence. He focused on the live camera, his voice resonating strongly to the millions of Americans watching. Aurora Airlines will never bow to those who play dirty. He paused for a moment, his eyes shining with unyielding determination. And I, James Thornton, representing my entire family, promise this: we will expose every perpetrator behind this conspiracy and bring them to light. Once justice is served, a chilling silence enveloped the room. Then, like a wave, the applause began to ripple through the crowd, growing louder and faster. A group of reporters even stood up and cheered enthusiastically. Emily and Noah exchanged glances, their eyes sparkling with emotion. They not only felt the thrill of victory, but also a deep pride in their unwavering courage to stand up and fight for what was right. In his towering Stratus Air office downtown, Michael Steele unleashed his fury. He slammed the whiskey bottle against the wall as he intently watched the live broadcast. He let out a primal roar, like a wounded beast in a rage. How dare they? His phone vibrated incessantly, a flood of messages pouring in. Stratus's stock plummeted by 15%. Aurora Airlines had filed a lawsuit. The Department of Justice requested an investigation. The Federal Aviation Administration had suspended operations. Jonathan buried his head in despair, collapsing onto the sofa as the game he thought he had under control went up in smoke in just one morning. Meanwhile, at City Hall, Preston stepped down from the podium. Holding his children tightly in his warm embrace, they walked outside, where for the first time in days, Los Angeles basked in brilliant sunshine. A crowd gathered outside City Hall, clapping loudly. Their excitement was palpable, with some voices shouting, "Bennett, Bennett," while Emily held her chin high, her dark brown hair gently blowing in. The wind. Noah could almost feel the broad smile radiating hope, as if the sky had been washed clean and bright after the storm. Preston leaned down, his voice softly whispering just enough for his children to hear every word. "This is just the beginning. We have a long journey ahead. But today, oh today, you have achieved something that most people would never have the courage to do." And the three of them bravely stepped into the light as the sun gently set over the Los Angeles horizon, painting the sky with stunning shades of orange and red. The Bennett family felt a glimmer of hope, believing that the storm had finally passed. Little did they know, in the darkest corners, a new threat was quietly rising. Just 3 days after the dramatic press conference, the market changed as swiftly as a sudden shift in the wind. Aurora Airlines, bolstered by the steadfast image of the Bennett family fighting for the truth, saw a remarkable recovery in public confidence. Their stock soared by 20%. Meanwhile, a series of new contracts from Asia and Europe flooded in like an unstoppable wave. In stark contrast, Stratus's fortunes plummeted. The shocking revelation about Project Eclipse led to an impending formal investigation by the Department of Justice and the Federal Aviation Administration, aiming to uncover the empire that Michael Steele had painstakingly built over the past 15 years. Michael Steele faced serious allegations of conspiracy, corruption, and money laundering. Just 72 hours later, he found himself arrested at his lavish estate in Bear. He hung his head in defeat as the continuous flash of photographers surrounded him. News spread across the media with sensational headlines about the downfall of the airline tycoon. Michael Steele had arrested Aurora Airlines after defeating a mysterious enemy, a glorious victory that felt utterly unshakable. But that very night at the Bennett estate, the soft glow of lights enveloped the main hall in warmth as Reed, the head of security, entered the living room with a worried expression. "Preston, sit with Emily and Noah while they strategize the next steps." He glanced at Reed as he approached. "What's going on, Reed?" Preston asked, his tone calm but laced with urgency. Reed placed a folder on the table, alongside aggressive advertisements from Stratus. We've stumbled upon a vast underground financial network, and it's not connected to each other. Emily squinted, her heart racing. You mean there are others involved? Reed nodded, each word heavy in the air. Yes, a much larger, far more terrifying force lurking behind it all. Emily's hands trembled as she opened the folder. The neatly stapled pages inside sent shivers down both her and Noah's spines. A network of anonymous bank accounts had been funneling money to key players in Stratus, even before Michael Steele launched Project Eclipse. All these funds were funneled to a troubling destination, Dominion Holdings, a notorious international investment company known for its ruthless acquisitions. Dominion Holdings was not only targeting Aurora Airlines, but also aimed at the heart of the national airspace system of the United States. Their ambitious plan was to seize control of airspace, transportation, and the entire economic supply chain of the nation. Aurora Airlines was merely the first step in their grand strategy. Preston leaned forward, his hands gripping the table as he bowed his head in deep thought. The golden light cast intense, harsh shadows on his face. We're not just fighting against anger, he murmured, his voice hoarse with emotion. We're fighting against those who want to strangle America. Emily stared at her father, her eyes filled with fear and determination. Her hands clenched tightly. Noah stood silently, his lips pressed together, a storm of thoughts brewing beneath. The tension in the room became palpable, enveloping them like a thick fog. They had won a battle, but the real struggle, fierce and monumental, was just beginning. That very night, Preston gathered a group of his most trusted allies, Ethan Brooks, Emily, Noah, and several seasoned legal advisors. As the large screen flickered, a map of Dominion Holdings appeared, showing international branches and cleverly concealed subsidiaries. One key figure stood out, marked in red. Reed directed attention to the most important name, Charles Winston, CEO of Dominion Holdings. Dominion Holdings appeared, showcasing cleverly hidden international branches and subsidiaries. A key figure stood out, marked in red. Reed directed attention to the most important name, Charles Winston, CEO of Dominion Holdings. Reed asserted that Langston was not just an investor, his voice unwavering. He was the mastermind orchestrating the secret acquisitions. He skillfully manipulated banking systems across the Middle East and South America. Now, he was turning his attention to the U.S. aviation industry. Preston leaned back in his chair, fingers interlaced, his voice cold. As he spoke, Langston wouldn't stop just because Cross had failed. Emily chimed in, her eyes shining with intense determination. He will act faster, more ruthlessly, and this time the target won't just be Aurora across the ocean. Meanwhile, in a glass-walled office high above the streets of Switzerland, Charles Winston takes a sip of whiskey, feeling the weight of his intentions in the air. His cold gaze focuses on the live news broadcast, where Michael Steele is being escorted away in handcuffs. A faint, almost sinister smile appears on his lips. Just a pawn, he silently thinks, placing the glass down on the marble table with deliberate calmness. A man in a black suit approaches him and nods slightly. Is there a new order? Sir Langston carefully adjusts his tie, his voice calm and steady as if he is merely talking about the weather. Erase all traces, he commands, and move on to phase 2. The night in Los Angeles stretches on, the sky engulfed in endless darkness. At the Bennett estate, the lights shine defiantly. The Bennett family realizes that in this crucial moment, they are no longer competing with a petty rival. They are facing a dark force that is controlling the world. And once again, they find themselves at a crossroads, having to make a choice that will change everything. In the face of adversity, they can choose to stay silent to survive or stand up and fight, knowing that it might cost them everything. Preston turns to Emily. His heart heavy as he observes the children who have been forged in hardship, strengthened by the fiercest challenges. He gently places his hand on his son and daughter's shoulders, his eyes shining like lone stars piercing through the night's dark veil. "No matter the cost," he whispers with unwavering resolve, "we will not step back, united in purpose." The three of them nod in agreement. They are about to plunge into a fierce battle where survival, honor, and the fate of countless lives hang in the balance. Los Angeles is engulfed in stifling darkness, the streets glowing like fresh red veins. Coursing through the very essence of the city, every breath is heavy and labored with anticipation. But beneath that flashy exterior lies an impending clash ready to erupt. Bennett Leprechaun is famous, and Emily and Noah are ready to act. This is no longer just an attempt to seek personal honor. It has gone beyond the interests of a single airline. It has evolved into a fierce struggle between truth and the dark ambitions that seek to undermine our nation's future. The next morning, it was no longer just a quest for personal honor. It had gone beyond the interests of a single airline. It had evolved into the fierce struggle between truth and dark ambitions, trying to undermine our nation's future. The next morning, Preston took a bold step by holding a surprise press conference at the headquarters of Aurora Airlines. But this time, he didn't just present evidence against Stratair. He also revealed to the world the complex power map Dominion Holdings had painstakingly built over the years. In the warm golden glow of the conference room lights, Emily displayed the classified documents on the big screen. That was the aviation industry, dominate the transportation market, and even influence national policies. Each piece of evidence hits hard against the web of deception. Outside, beneath the building, international media compete to report, broadcasting live updates to audiences around the world. The headlines scream urgency. Aurora Airlines has exposed a chilling global conspiracy orchestrated by Dominion Holdings. This shady corporation has been revealed as the mastermind behind economic sabotage. In an instant, Dominion Holdings' stock plummets, triggering a wave of outrage across social media. Politicians and federal agencies can no longer turn a blind eye to the chaos unfolding. Charles Winston, once a formidable figure lurking in the shadows, now becomes a tormented man, haunted by the consequences of his actions. But deep down, Emily knows that Dominion Holdings won't fall without a fight, and her instincts prove correct. Just hours after the press conference, Aurora's internal network is hit by a brutal cyber attack, a wave of DDoS attacks, crafty malware, and targeted phishing attempts flood in, all aimed at wiping out the evidence they just bravely revealed. Noah sits in front of the bright computer screen in the security control room. Dominion Holdings' stock plummeted, triggering a wave of outrage across social media. Politicians and federal agencies could no longer ignore the chaotic situation unfolding. Charles Winston, once a formidable figure lurking in the shadows, had now become a tormented man, haunted by the consequences of his actions. But deep down, Emily knew that Dominion Holdings wouldn't collapse without a fight, and her instincts proved right. Just hours after the press conference, Aurora's internal network was hit by a fierce cyber attack, a series of DOS attacks, cunning malware, and targeted phishing attempts rolled in, all aimed at erasing any evidence they had bravely revealed. Noah sat in front of the bright computer screen in the security control room, focused and unwavering as he coordinated countermeasures. The 15-year-old boy, wearing a gray hoodie, radiated an intense determination that seemed to ignite the atmosphere around him. Across the room, Emily tirelessly set up firewalls, her fingers dancing over the keyboard while protecting their data. With each calculated move, she launched clever counterattacks, luring hackers into the digital traps she had laid, meticulously crafted. Her determination shone brightly like Noah. Preston led the team of lawyers with unwavering resolve, filing a lawsuit against Dominion Holdings with the Department of Justice and invoking international treaties to freeze the corporation's assets worldwide. The tech war raged on for 18 months. Now, as the sun rose again over Los Angeles, the victory was undeniable. Dominion Holdings had been completely defeated. The FBI, the Department of Justice, and countless federal agencies had cooperated closely, Carrying out their mission with relentless determination, key leaders of Dominion faced the threat of arrest. Charles Winston, after a tense and dramatic manhunt spanning several countries, was finally captured at a hideout villa in Montenegro. 3 months later, Aurora Airlines held an emotional ceremony in Los Angeles, not just to celebrate the remarkable comeback, but also to honor the indomitable spirit of those who bravely stood against the most formidable forces. In the Grand Hall, as James Thornton stepped onto the stage with Emily and Noah, the entire auditorium erupted in applause, cheers echoing unendingly. Preston took the microphone, the spotlight illuminating his face brilliantly. It was not just a reflection of victory, but radiated from a deep belief in what was right. He began. He said, with a powerful and emotional voice, "We are not perfect. We may not have a mighty army or limitless strength." He turned to Emily and Noah, his gaze gentle and warm. "There are 3 things we cherish the most: a steadfast belief in the truth, the courage to stand firm in the face of adversity, and a family that never backs down." The hall erupted in applause, the cheers booming like thunder, filling the air with electric energy. Emily squeezed Noah's hand tightly, and in that moment, they shared a look unlike any emotion they had felt before, a connection that went beyond words. In a moment filled with profound pride, not just for the victory, but for the courage to stand up and fight. After this victory, Aurora Airlines became a beacon of resilience against injustice. The name Bennett will forever be etched in the hearts of the people as a powerful reminder that although justice is not always easy to achieve, our unwavering determination will ultimately lead to victory. The essence of this story is a testament to the indomitable spirit of the Bennett family. Their relentless struggle is a powerful reminder that even though the truth may be buried deep, it can never truly be extinguished. Justice may come at the right time, but it will surely come if we remain steadfast. When a family stands united, they can achieve remarkable feats that command respect from the world, even when the most fearsome forces conspire to cover up the truth, and dark hands use every means at their disposal. As long as there are brave hearts ready to stand up, the truth will be illustrated anew with blood, tears, and unwavering courage. The story of the Bennett family highlights some profound lessons in life resilience and the power of truth. Moreover, there is the strength of solidarity in the face of injustice. Despite facing discrimination, sabotage, and powerful enemies, Emily, Noah, and Preston never wavered. Their courage in confronting prejudice and exposing corruption emphasizes the importance of standing firm for what is right, even when the challenges seem insurmountable. The Bennett family faced racism and corporate conspiracies, but they persisted with determination and strategic action. Today in the United States, individuals and communities face challenges like systemic bias and economic hardship. This teaches us to be resilient by using educational skills and advocacy to overcome obstacles. The family's commitment to uncovering and presenting undeniable evidence against adversaries shows that truth, though difficult to accept, is a tremendous strength. In 2025, as misinformation floods social media, this lesson encourages Americans to seek verified information and hold accountable those who spread false information. Whether in politics or business, the unity of the Bennett family is their backbone. In modern America, where division often prevails, this reminds us to build strong family and community relationships, facing challenges together. Whether addressing social issues or personal struggles, let's cultivate resilience by pursuing goals despite obstacles. Just like Emily's tech skills or Noah's understanding of social media, verify information before sharing to combat misinformation, strengthen community, relationships through collaboration, reflecting the teamwork spirit of the Bennett family. These actions stem from the courage and integrity that help us build a fair, united society that reflects American values of perseverance and justice.